Sound, hearing, ears. These things are all connected. You hear the sounds using your ears. And sounds are a crucial part of the gaming experience, though not mandatory. In a shooter, sounds are important because you have to listen to the enemy's footsteps or gunshots to know their location. In story-based open world or single-player games, it sets the ambience and mood with the sounds of leaves rustling in the winds or birds chirping to immerse you in the game. Video game music has been around since 1951, with God Save the Queen being played for a video game event on the Mark I Ferranti computer. The first game that appeared with sound effects was Pong in 1972, with the iconic noise of the ball hitting the wall. In the 80s, games were coming to a store near you, with the creation of computers and consoles. Though the problem was something, it's right on my tongue. What was it again? Because well, they only had 384 kilobytes for the whole game, so sounds were extremely minuscule beeps and boops. For comparison, this footage of the Atari 2600 version of Pac-Man is 47.5 megabytes, which is 4750 kilobytes. That is 12 times bigger. Jump to the 90s, where the memory space grew and games started using real-world sounds.
Morning, Mr. Freeman. Looks like you're running late.
Coming back to the present, nowadays, game companies keep trying to get the best sounding effects that are possible by, well, just recording the sounds in real life. That's where Foley artists come in, who are specialists in making sounds that are used in games and movies, so you don't actually have to break somebody's arm to attain the sound effect. Oh man. For shooters, most big companies record the sounds of guns in person as well, which is dangerous for the hearing of the recorders, which is why they wear sound muffling headphones. But while gaming, we use headphones to listen to those same sounds in the game. What's up with that? This epiphany made me want to know if the sounds in video games are loud enough to deteriorate one's hearing. Okay, now I'm not an expert when it comes to hearing loss, but I have done a thesis paper on noise, so I am somewhat qualified to talk about this topic. For example, I know the main factors for hearing problems are acoustic power, which is the loudness of the sounds, and the exposure time, which is the amount of time that you expose yourself to the sound. Duh. We all know that gamers have extremely long gaming sessions, but the danger comes down to what volume you have it set to. So it's hard to determine if the amount of time you gamed actually was bad for your hearing. Sounds that are higher than 80 decibels can damage your hearing if exposed to for long periods of time, while sounds that are louder than 120 decibels can cause harm immediately. Though headphones and earbuds max out at 100 decibels for safety to prevent this. You can sum it up to the higher the decibel is, the less time it takes for it to damage your hearing. For those who don't know how decibels work, if the number grows by 10 for example, then that sound is 10 times more intense. If you look at the damage it would do if it's in the default way that it's set the first time you open the game, then the results aren't good. Because for some reason, every company thinks it's a good idea to just set the volume to 100%, so that the game just blasts your ears off the first time you open it, leaving an amazing first impression. Some games even have updates that revert the game to its default settings, meaning that out of nowhere, one time when you just want to game with the boys, you just suddenly get surprised by you have lost all the hearing you had left. To combat this, game companies should set the volume to at least 50% as the default, or even lower. The lower it is, the better, because at least then you won't be jeopardizing the hearing of the consumers. Or if they won't do that, you could always just lower the Windows volume. There has been research done on the danger of gaming when it comes to hearing, with complex testing, math and a dummy of a head, where the results were that for a regular student it is harmful for them to play 4 hours with 4 hours of rest. But this is with max volume. But I would like to believe that most people turn down the volume, though the page that I took this from said that 1 in 10 Australians crank up the volume. The games that are the most detrimental to your hearing career are the games where you shoot. Some call them shooters. This is quite self-explanatory. I mean, guns are allowed. Some games that have guns in them depict war or are action-oriented, meaning that there are going to be a lot of action sound effects, which are the loudest. Other game genres aren't as loud, because well, there's not as much going on in Stardew Valley as there is in Battlefield 1. There's also one other problem relating to the sounds in games, and that's the frequency of the sounds. Because if a sound effect in a game is around 2600 Hz, it can trigger tinnitus, which, well, isn't good. Tinnitus, if you don't know, is the ringing or buzzing in your ear that you hear sometimes, or for some people constantly. Of course, you would think that the solution to all of these problems would be just to change the settings, but while changing the volume of a game can save you from hearing loss, it doesn't save you from the tinnitus it could bring, because for this you need to be able to change the frequency of the sound effect, which is a problem. It actually mostly isn't, because most games do not have such advanced settings, because they don't need them. An example of this is CSGO. The flashbang in this game has an approximate frequency value of 2600 Hz, which can trigger tinnitus, and you get flashed a lot in this game. And sometimes you don't even have to be fully flashed to still hear the sound, and this could also appear in other shooters. And as a person who has self-diagnosed tinnitus sometimes, this can become extremely irritating. When it comes to competitive games, the sounds are extremely important. Most of these types of games have important sound cues that you need to react to. Overwatch has voice lines for every hero ultimate in the game, so you know when you hear high noon, you should hide, or when you hear to prepare your casket and will. CSGO has footsteps and grenade pin pulls. Valorant also has voice lines for ultimates that differ if the agent is on your team or the enemy team, so you should always keep the sound at a hearable level in games if possible. So in conclusion, what do? Well, there's actually quite an easy solution. Your headphones max out at 105 to 110 decibels, according to Harvard, which means if you're a crackhead who needs to listen to things at the loudest volume possible, then you should know that it could cause hearing loss after 5 minutes, so I don't recommend this. What I do recommend is to lower it to about 60. While 70 to 80 decibels doesn't cause damage, it can make you annoyed. Or they can cause damage? There's different information on different websites, so just trust the ones you want, that's up to you, King. You can check the decibels of your headphones by just downloading an app on your phone and putting the mic of the phone up to the headphone speaker. So this didn't work as well as I expected. It peaked at 70 to 80 decibels at the higher volumes. I don't know if it's trustable. So yeah, you can just do this. Wait, but how will I know what decibel? Hey, man.